Good afternoon, everybody. Chris Frew with BioBuzz here for another episode of What's the Buzz? Our opportunity to talk to what we call ecosystem builders. And we use that term pretty broadly here because there's a lot of people that are committed to building the ecosystems that life sciences thrive in. And today I have the honor of talking to Jim Sergi, who is president and founder of QNOVA Life Sciences. Jim, welcome to the program today.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, I appreciate you carving off time this afternoon to talk with me. I'm excited to talk about our conversation today about staying ahead of the curve of JP Morgan annual healthcare conference, which is really coming up fast, isn't it?
It's right around the corner.
Well, before we jump in, for those of you joining us for the first time today, again, my name is Chris Frew with BioBuzz. We're on a mission to build the world's largest connected community of life science professionals, one ecosystem at a time. And our interview series here is an opportunity to talk to the people really behind the scenes and sometimes in front of the scenes who are building those ecosystems and helping companies grow. As always, I want to thank our sponsor for today's program, which is CRB. If you don't know CRB, they are the builders, architects, and designers who are literally building the ecosystem that we all work in. So it's very relevant that they sponsor this program because they are the true ecosystem builders, building the physical buildings that we all get to develop innovative therapies and medicines and devices through. So special thank you to our good friends at CRB. And if you're looking for a lab build out or expanding your facility, again, I can't think of anybody better. And I've known them for close to 2 decades now. So, well, good. Well, Jim, I'm excited to talk today. Can you start us off and just give us an introduction and tell us a little bit about yourself and your firm?
Yes, thank you, Chris, very much. So I'm the founder and president of QNOVA Life Sciences, and we're a regulatory consultant group. We work with a lot of emerging and growth companies, both on the biopharma and the MedTech side, to help accelerate their research discoveries through to commercialization in a manner that mitigates time, cost, and risk. The team at QNOVA Life Sciences has amassed over a decade of experience in helping to advance novel technologies through the FDA. And we've also worked to support our clients to help grow their businesses in a manner that is meaningful to them. So we're really excited to be part of BioBuzz, and we look forward to welcoming everyone at JP Morgan in 2026.
Thank you, Jim. You know, I mentioned earlier, ecosystem builders take many forms. You run a consulting firm that supports a lot of different companies. But you also take a larger role in this industry. And every year, you may just mention JP Morgan. Every year you host, I think this is what, your 12th year, Jim, that you host
Correct.
a partner forum at JP Morgan?
So we started the partnering forum at JP Morgan 12 years ago. And it was really intended to serve as a forum to bring our companies together and to leverage our ecosystem and our relationships that we have established with strategics as well as the investment community. And the investment community spans from early seed stage family offices to venture to larger private equity and strategic financial institutions. And I've been able to develop those relationships over 30 years being in the life science sector. So we started small with just a handful of clients and meetings that first year. And since then, the program has grown into one of the preeminent programs that is being offered during JP Morgan. And as you know, Chris, JP Morgan is a collection of programs. It's an ecosystem of over 30 different programs that take place in January, which brings life science companies together to meet and to discuss their novel technologies and to seek and obtain partnering opportunities or investment opportunities for their companies.
Yeah, it's a really unique week or conference in itself in that. And it is this ecosystem in itself, which I think is fascinating as a community guy.
It's an amazing conference for companies attending for their first time. What I like to share with them, it's unlike any other conference that they will attend. It, in some regards, is still very traditional, where the dress is relatively formal. You're meeting individuals rapidly. It's like speed dating on steroids. But it's also, while it's a very energizing time of the year, it can be very pivotal in the life cycle of a company. So planning is critical, and planning early is a must. We're very pleased. We have done the program now for 12 years, and we are in a continual state of planning and developing our program and trying to enhance it each year based on lessons learned from the previous year. We're very fortunate to have a broad ecosystem of sponsors and partners, and we're really excited to have MTEC as our co-host for this event.
Yeah, that's great. We were talking ahead of time, Jim, and I think you mentioned what 1,500 companies came through last year through the event, and it seems like it has a really specific focus. And MTech sounds like they're a great partner that kind of brings in a unique element to it as well.
It's for us, we're very proud of the relationships that we've been able to build over the years, and the trust that we have earned from our partners. We not only have MTech participating in our program, but we also have the NIH, the Department of War, as it's now known, and we've had the FDA participate in our program. And I think what's unique is the fact that we bring together companies and our partners to interact and to engage with companies over the course of a week. We also have, in addition to the 1,500 companies that participated last year, we had over 30 different government trade organizations participate. And that's really significant because they're able to bring to the forum their portfolio companies. So it adds an international flavor and dynamic to the meeting, which really provides a richness to the program. In addition, we had over 50 academic accelerators and incubators participate, and we had representation from over 34 countries last year at the forum. This year, in addition to the partnering forum, we have a plenary program that we've organized that's going to really feature some of the leaders in industry over the latest trends, investments that they're seeing, as well as strategic partnering that they're experiencing right now. We're also hosting a forum, a workshop on Monday, hosted by the Australia government. And MTech will be hosting a workshop on Thursday, really designed to help early seed stage companies succeed.
Yeah, and MTech's focus is like Department of War. It's dual use. Is that right? Is that MTech's focus as part of the conference?
So MTech is an invaluable resource to early stage and emerging life science companies, both within biopharma as well as MedTech. And what they've been able to do is to provide not only consultation and guidance, but they're able to make investments into companies whose technology has a dual use purpose. Dual use being civilian as well as military applications to the war fighters.
That's fantastic. And especially, in this market we're in, I mean, there's one of the departments that really hasn't seen as much of a decline as some of the others. So Jim, I'm curious, when you mentioned JP Morgan being an ecosystem of events, what is it that you hear from companies that attend your events that really stands out? Like what is it about your program every year that people really keeps them coming back and they really find value?
That's a great question, Chris. And it's, for me, the easiest way to answer that is we really take great care in managing the introductions at the program. So while we do provide our clients a partnering app similar to other programs that companies may have participated in the past, our program has remained free of cost to companies to participate in. In addition to the partnering, we have a large network of thousands of investors that companies have access to, as well as strategics. I would venture to say that over 50% of the meetings that companies participate in at our program occur serendipitously on site by our staff understanding who the investors and strategics are there participating, and then providing personal warm introductions to those individuals. So we really take great care in working with our clients and the participants to ensure that it's a successful event for them. For small companies, the event can be overwhelming. And so therefore, we really work with companies so that they're not Bambi in headlights, and they can achieve a successful outcome from the program.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of people who attend for the first time that it is overwhelming. So to have somebody like you that can create those purposeful introductions, and I think that says a lot about your culture. I mean, every interaction that we've had and I've had with your staff, everything your team seems to do is very purposeful and curated. So it's great to hear you say that. I would expect no difference at the conference. Maybe we could take a little bit of a turn. You started to talk a little bit about it, but do you have some advice for people who are coming to JP Morgan, maybe for the first time, or maybe rethinking how they approach it this year, besides, of course, attend the forum?
No, that's a great question. And I think it really gets to the investor sentiment right now, and really understanding what that sentiment is and what's trending and what investors are really looking for. And raising capital or raising funds for whether you're a seed company, raising your first, raising your seed round of investment, or whether you're a more mature emerging company, raising your Series B or C, or a company planning an IPO. It's a difficult, environment, right now, especially amid the regulatory and geopolitical turmoil that we're all facing. If you look at VC funding, or, funding in general in life science, it's at the lowest volume it's been in 10 years. But companies continue to get funded. And so what we're seeing is those companies that really have, a sound regulatory commercial development plan that's been well defined and well budgeted, and they have a plan for their life cycle management of their assets, are doing much better than those early stage companies that are really unclear. I think what investors are really looking for is the team, and that's what they're betting on, is the team. So I think what we have found that works most successfully at JP Morgan is building that, that pitch deck and your elevator pitch, if you would. Because at JP Morgan, you're going to be meeting with a lot of investors. And investors typically have hundreds of meetings scheduled during JP Morgan, and they're running from one meeting venue to the other. So what they really want is just that elevator pitch in 3 or 4 sentences. So having a well-articulated pitch matters most. Having business cards is important, and taking notes on the back of a business card so you can remember your critical follow-up activities is important. The other thing that we found to be really critical for success at JP Morgan is to really know your audience. It's not so much about the number of meetings that you get, but to really filter carefully and to ensure that your investment thesis aligns with the stage of investor that you're talking to. So I think that's really important to understand.
Yeah, I can imagine. I like the approach quality over quantity, right? I got to imagine there's just a tremendous amount of people there, but being able to guard your time and know where to spend it at a program like this is important.
Yeah, I think that, I think what companies, some companies that are attending for their first time, they'll go in with a lot of slides. If you have the opportunity to make an investor presentation, your presentation should be no more than 10 slides, and the title of the slide needs to convey the take-home message. So we spend a lot of time working with our clients a priori to help ensure that their investor presentation is tight. It conveys a very clear, concise message with the appropriate ask, of that investor. And follow-up is critical. Waiting till you return home often is too late. Try to get that follow-up email out that night. I often tell clients there's a lot of parties and a lot of events, at JP Morgan, but I've never seen a company get funded at a party. So really guard and value your time accordingly and follow up with your investors.
Great advice. Great advice. There's a lot of statistics out there. Like if you respond within the first couple minutes of an inquiry, for digital businesses, it follows the same theme. Like show the urgency, follow up, show that you're on top of your business. So yeah, I think that's great advice, Jim.
And I think, presentation, the way you present yourself, because companies are really looking at, the investor. And we're now working, we're now in the age of AI, where AI is really driving health tech across medical technologies. And it's really important that for individuals coming out of that space to understand that traditional life science investors are pretty much old school. So jeans and a t-shirt is not an appropriate dress, for this conference.
Yeah, the IT tech bro culture hasn't made its way over here yet. So hopefully we resist a little bit longer. So on that note, Jim, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what are some of the trends happening in kind of the marketplace and with deal making right now as we head into this deal making season.
I think if you break it up into pharma and health tech, it might be a way to really look at it itself. Investment in biopharm is down in 2025. In some regards, if you look at market reports from Silicon Valley Bank, Stifel, and other investment firms or analysts, what you'll see is it's at its lowest point since 2015. However, there is strong M&A activity occurring right now, and it's really occurring across the board, both on small molecules and biologics, with those companies that have a very strong science and a strong pathway to that next value inflection. So it's really looking at understanding your science and packaging and coupling the science with strong financial metrics that is really leading the biopharma space right now. And what we're seeing in that space is that deals are getting done. However, on both the seed as well as the Series A, it's taking longer to get those deals done. If you look at reports from Carta, it took an average of 24 to close Series A and Series B funding this past year. That's a long time horizon. So, and with Series A, the average time that was reported is 6 to 12 months. So, and what's really guiding it is the science, and the team itself, and having a very clear fundamental message for investors. On the on the device and health tech side, what you're really seeing right now is that AI has really driven a lot of the deals. And in 2025, 50% of the deals reported by CARTA and other agencies, 50% involved some element of AI integrated into MedTech deals. So obviously there's a lot of interest there. That interest has been in neuromodulation, AI-enabled robotic surgical tools, as well as AI-enabled work plans for assisting medical device technologies. So those are some of the trends that we have been seeing, with companies right now. I think the other the other trend that we're seeing is are some of the changes that are occurring at the FDA. Under the current administration, the FDA is expected to continue to issue new guidances and new policies on how emerging technologies, as well as existing drugs and medical device technologies, will be regulated. What we're seeing is that there have been both official and unofficial, statements released from the agency, with the goal of the agency to look at strategies to possibly deregulate or to minimize some of the regulations that have governed the development of technologies. And we're seeing the FDA look at faster pathways for drug and device approvals, including greater emphasis on innovations such as the right to try or the emergency use, and the revision of the priority review voucher program at the agency. So we're seeing changes, being proposed by the FDA that could really help to accelerate the advancement of technologies. What that does is it does put inherent pressure on companies. Because of this, companies need to really consider, as they go through the drug development pathway, their vendor qualifications and where they're sourcing their API. Is it coming out of China, India? Have the vendors been qualified, and really accelerate their CMC and GMP tech transfer programs to permit an accelerated basis of approval of their technologies. So while it's created opportunities, it's also created challenges that companies will now need to examine as they move forward. And we've been working hard to help our clients understand these implications and how to best position themselves in the marketplace.
AI is something that this FDA is really embracing as well. Just curious how, they rolled out ELSA this year. So everyone knows they're using AI to evaluate submissions and applications. Are there trends that you're seeing that companies are doing that are working for how they're integrating that into their submission process, or anything else they're doing?
That's interesting. We had two companies recently engage with us, that both foreign companies that used AI to draft FDA submissions to the agency. And in both situations, the submissions were deemed not sufficient for review. So while that's only an N of 2, we are seeing more companies use AI in many different areas. Pharma has been using AI to facilitate drug discovery to really help facilitate targeting. AI is being used to help design, analytic and animal safety toxicology programs in hopes to mitigate the use of animal testing. So we're seeing the use of AI in those sectors. We're seeing AI being used by companies to facilitate the role of real-world evidence in regulatory decision-making. Using real-world evidence to support the safety of technologies and drugs for the FDA. How the FDA ultimately is going to view these data that is submitted is unclear at this point. We have integrated AI into our practice, and we're continuing to evaluate new AI tools and software that we hope to gain greater efficiencies and reduced costs, for our clients as we move forward with regulatory submissions. But I think it's been part of our daily workflow at QNOVA Life Science. And I think we're only going to see that continue to expand. There's been reports from FDA, from non-official reports from the FDA over their use of AI that have been mixed. And so they, like other companies, are constantly reevaluating its role. The FDA's invested a lot of money in ELSA. And I think we'll continue to see changes, to that program. But I do believe AI is here to stay.
Well, I appreciate that feedback. I know that a lot of startups and a lot of people seeking funding right now, when they come to our events, that those are questions that come up. In fact, we're having an event on Wednesday around AI and compliance. And we have 2 people presenting that were part of the ISPE GAMP guidelines writing to help provide some clarity. It just, like you said, it's here to stay. We're all kind of fighting through the mess right now, trying to figure out how to best navigate it. So Jim, as a community builder, an ecosystem builder, building an ecosystem around JP Morgan, I'm sure you hear a lot. You work with a lot of sponsors who are sponsoring and being part of this event, both investors as well as other partners. You work with a lot of startup companies that are attending your events and preparing to attend your events. What are some things that, we talked a little bit about, like some of the kind of trends in partnering, but what are some of the things that you're looking forward to that you're kind of seeing as kind of growth areas in 2026? Like let's end on a positive note of thinking about the future. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, what you're hearing from the ecosystem that you're in.
I see great excitement and a lot of positivity. We've been engaging with a lot of investors as well as strategics that are reaching out, looking for curated deal opportunities. We recently introduced 3 of our clients to a large private equity group that is in various stages of diligence now. So we're seeing a lot of market recovery and market excitement right now. So that has me really excited. I think the other area that has me really excited is we're seeing some fascinating technologies, both on the pharma side as well as on the MedTech side, emerging. And we're really excited, by that. We've developed at QNOVA Life Sciences a very strong reputation and experience in developing and advancing novel drugs and biologics through the FDA and out to a value inflection. And that's been reflected in the investment community because the investors are calling and wanting to know, who should we meet with? What do you have that's hot? We're also seeing, because of some of the FDA changes on the MedTech side, we're seeing a lot of promise and a lot of an interest from MedTech investors looking for diagnostic tools and devices that have applications for home use or home use monitoring. So we're seeing a lot of interest there, and we're working with our clients to help them integrate AI into some of these technologies to really make them much more attractive for investors. So I'm very optimistic about 2026 and the momentum that we're seeing going into JP Morgan. Last year, the city of San Francisco estimated 150,000 people participated over the course of that week. The city is anticipating over 175,000 people will be attending this year.
Wow.
So we're really excited. I look forward to welcoming everybody to our program, and I'm especially grateful and thankful to MTEC as our co-host and our sponsors.
Yeah, that's great. That's a huge increase. 25,000 is a big jump. Well, Jim, thank you for everything you do. This industry, it's great to hear some optimism as we close things out. The industry has definitely been through its crucible over the past couple years. But I think if anything, the attendance this year is going to continue to help move some of those novel and exciting areas forward. Again, we're grateful for the ecosystem you're building. I'm expecting that next year we'll be talking further about more than 1,500 companies coming if you've got another 25,000 to juggle. But again, I thank you for being on the program and telling us all about, again, all the different components of this industry that you and your team touch every day, especially at JP Morgan.
Well, thank you, Chris, and I look forward to meeting you at JP Morgan and welcoming all your members. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining today. Really appreciate it. As always, come and tune in. Make sure you subscribe so you can get updates on our next interview. In addition to amazing people like Jim, we've got a lineup of other folks, including this week, we're talking to Jeff Wren from the Advancement Association of Blood Banking. So we're talking with him on Friday. So please, again, subscribe, tune in, and visit us next time on Friday for another really interesting conversation. And Jim, have a wonderful rest of your week today, and we will see you at JP Morgan very soon.